So what is the INFP's biggest problem? It's people, specifically the feeling of abandonment, judgment, and the lack of connection through work. In this video, you will learn from John, an officially typed INFP, about his real-life struggles. I've interviewed John in the past, but this time around, I analyzed his type at a deeper level. Our goal this time around is to find the root cause of his problems. You will see his struggles from an INFP standpoint.
Oh, look at you. You're living with your parents, you're unemployed, and you're fat and you're lazy. And your girlfriend's left you because she's tired of being in this long-distance relationship with you. Just like, I'm kind of very scared of people. Even though I'm I'm not scared of people because I'm positive, but at the same time I am, because it's like, you start from nothing and you're trying to network with people and they're like, oh, who the hell are you? Get out of here.
As well as to find practical solutions to John's problems. John is a double extroverted INFP type. That means his extroverted thinking is double activated. His exact animal stack order is consume, play, blast, sleep, and he is double feminine. In general, as an IP type, he is balanced with gathering and organizing at a 60-40 ratio. Looking at John's animal stack, you can see that his weakest animals are blast, which is his introvert sensing and extrovert thinking, and his sleep, which is his introvert feeling and introvert sensing together. Now, if we zoom in closer to his two demons, the areas of his ST blast that he has the most trouble with is producing and getting things done.
I have not built anything. I have not built I've not started my music career. That's the problem. I've not recorded any stuff. And even if I do record stuff, what's the chance that I'm gonna be successful? And also then there's also the thing of like networking with other people. It's like, going out there and meeting new people. It's like, I thought that if I went to America that I'd have to like meet random new people and start networking from scratch and doing all this kind of stuff. Like the whole, essentially it's kind of like all my like when reality hit me, it's like all my functions just got like a flipped upside down. So it was like, oh shit, I've just made the worst decision ever because I'm trying to be a music artist, but I have nothing. So I'm going to drop back in college.
He's okay with explaining and teaching to other people. And ironically, in this clip I'm about to show you, he's actually explaining how SF sleep works, even though he's not doing it.
But yeah, in my personal life, I want to sort of master the domains of sleep, diet, exercise, and mindfulness, because I believe if I do master those 4 domains of life, then I can basically take on any challenge. And like sort of and any like because life, I do believe life is essentially a struggle, because there's like a competition for resources, and there's like a competition for, there is like you could argue there's a competition for happiness as well, but no, because like I don't want to challenge too much. In my personal life, I want to be the master of sleep, diet, exercise, and mindfulness. Those 4 domains I want to be. I mean, there's no such thing as perfection in those domains, but I want to be better than the average person in those 4 domains in my personal life. And I think what happens is that if I do master those 4 domains in life, that's going to be beneficial to my relationship. It's going to be beneficial to my career. It's going to be like just like if you're being if you're being honest with yourself, like who is living right, like who is living right now is like who has good sleep, good diet, good exercise very regularly, and also like has good mindfulness practices. It's like who does that regularly? Like how many of those people can you say live like bad lives, or not so much bad lives, but like unhappy lives? It's like not a lot of people. He's
also bad at being practical and has trouble with competency.
Like my relationship with college is kind of an unhealthy one, because I went into college, like if I'm being honest with myself, the only reason why I went into college was to give myself an excuse to feel like that I'm doing something with myself. It's like, oh yeah, I am a folk singer songwriter. I'm technically not, because I haven't published anything, and it's the lie that I tell people that I am, because I want to be, but I'm not, because I haven't published anything. So.
And John doesn't have an SI step-by-step system to teach or guide the tribe. Now, not having an SITE step-by-step system is not a big deal for him right now, because he's still quite young. So in John's case, this is something that he would want to aspire to when he's older to approach, but right now it's not a big deal. So he can put this on pause in the moment. It already seems like perhaps John's double feminine ST blast is actually his biggest problem. But before we jump into any conclusions, let's jump into his SF sleep. As you can see, adhering to health routines is hard for John, But I don't think that this will be his biggest problem in his life. I think that eventually he will figure this out on his own, just because if you look at his function stack, his introvert feeling and introvert sensing is within his top 3 function. That means it's not touching any of his triggering functions, which is his extrovert thinking. And as you can see, John is already SF cool, so I don't think the SF side is going to be a problem for him. One of the biggest problems that he has to deal with right now, however, is prioritizing. And prioritizing is hard for John because he hasn't come to terms with the real world.
And it's like I wasn't ready for the real world. I wasn't ready for the ocean. I wasn't ready for the jungle, the free market jungle. Wasn't like, and it kind of knocked at the time it knocked my confidence and my ability to make like big decisions with my life.
You said earlier, you started thinking about like, making money, your finances stuff, and you said that's like a part of you that's like, it's like not a big deal, and it's like you're becoming something else. And I'm like, that is you. That's like your ST. Like you're, again, another lack of self acceptance. Like you're not accepting the ST part of you, right? Because like you're 25 right now, so clearly you live in NF, and you also some NT because you have double activated play, but the ST is double feminine. So like even earlier, I'm just taking some notes here. I just want to clarify, because obviously I'm going to make a video of this. So like you're not ready for the real world. So like the NF is the fake world, right? While the ST is the real world, and then you have double masculine NF and double feminine ST, right?
Yeah.
So it sounded like you're going to adulthood and you're scared. Like
you could say that. It's so embarrassing, but like it's sort of like, I think like I want to be like, here's why I am an adult. I'm very childlike, but I am an adult. But it is sort of like I want to make adult decisions with like, I mean, when I say adult decisions, I mean more responsible decisions. But it's just like, it is like kind of a thing of like, where to start, like how do you do it, and but then there's also the problem with like, even if you're taught how to do it, it's like you may start saying to yourself, oh yeah, well this doesn't apply to me, this only applies to somewhere else, or this, or it's like, yeah, I don't feel like doing it today. It's like those kind of things come up. So when it's this whole thing of like, oh, I don't know how to start, it's like, well, here's how you start. And then it's like, oh, I kind of don't want to do it, or I've got some excuse. It's not that I don't want to do it, but I've got some excuse. So it's like, yeah.
So once John takes ownership of being part of the real world, then I think his issue with prioritizing will be a lot less of a problem for him. As for processing his deep inner emotions, John can actually do it at a rudimentary level. The only thing that he has to do is talk out loud, because I noticed when I first asked him this question, besides hopelessness, he actually didn't know what deep emotions he was struggling with. But as he talked to me longer, he actually knew what they were. So deep down inside, he knows what they are, and I don't think this is going to be the biggest problem for him.
This might be a bit of an exaggeration, but hopelessness. I mean, I know my future is not hopeless, but it's just like, I've been feeling it for the past year. Like, if I don't change, then it's like, I want to make the change, but I should make the change, but I'm too lazy or inattentive to make the change, and it's like it's a shitty spiral. So hopelessness, it's a feeling that's where the hopelessness comes from. It comes from the lack of action. I think anger and fear. I know anger was the second one that jumped out, but I think fear is a stronger one, and it's a sort of subset of hopelessness. The anger is mainly towards my father.
As you know, anger is an iceberg emotion, and underneath that anger is really resentment.
Resentment, I think, is a better word than anger.
However, despite the fact that he can identify his deepest emotional problems, he still needs to do something about it, and that's the hard part. Now, if you look at John's situation, yes, he has problems with his animals, but really his biggest problem is that extrovert thinking at the bottom. And that's because John is getting tribe hate from his dad as a result of him not using his ST blast at a consistent basis.
And I remember my dad at one point said to me, I still remember this, and I remember where I was sitting. He said to me, "You're one of the laziest people I've ever met." And he said that to me when I was 14.
Now, John's goal in life is to be a folk singer and writer.
The thing is that like, I know what I want to do in my life. I know I want to be like a folk singer, songwriter. And the degree that I'm doing is like songwriting. in a college called BIM. It's called British Irish Modern Music.
However, according to him, he hasn't done anything to get started pursuing his dream. And that's because he's double observing and he knows it might not be practical and he might fail. But at the same time, he's not approaching this realistically, which means, yes, he can both go to school and also pursue the folk singing and songwriting on the side. A lot of people go to school during the day and at night they can pursue their hobbies. And eventually, when you pursue your hobby enough, you can make a decision whether to make that hobby into a career. And so for John to write those songs and then sing them and then present them to the tribe, it's gonna be a scary thing because he's scared of getting tribe hate. He's scared of getting rejected by the tribe, but there's no other way to do it. Unfortunately, in life, you need to be brave in order to pursue your dreams. So for John, it's very important for him to muster up the courage to take the first step, which is actually the hardest part, and put himself out there. The songwriting part is not going to be the hardest part for him because it uses his FI and SI. It's going to be harder for him to put it out in the world afterwards. And as you can see, John's biggest problem in his life is really his dad.
If I'm being honest, it's hard for me to tell him I love him. I can't, I like, because it's just, we have like, I don't know if it's different beliefs or if it's different attitudes or I don't know, but I kind of don't want to see him ever again, if I'm being honest. Like, I'd be fine. In fact, with my parents, my mom is nicer than my dad. I like my mom more than my dad. I'm a mother's boy, essentially. But the kind of relationship I kind of want to have with my family is like, if they were as far, like very far away from me, but they were still alive, if you get me, just far away from me. I let out the biggest fuck you to him. Like fuck you. Like I might have even called him the C word. I can't remember. But I remember the look on his face was of such disappointment. And I remember seeing that look on his face, and I was like, okay, maybe I went a bit too far. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry I said that. But one of the things about my dad is that he doesn't really accept apologies. He's not really a forgiving kind of person. And he's like, oh yeah, well, sorry means nothing. It's like, what if he said to me, and I know, and I could tell he could tell he felt like, I could tell he felt like doing this to me. And he's like, oh, what if I smacked you in the face with a cane and said, oops, I'm sorry. It's like that kind of thing.
But I feel like this problem is something that he can address later on in his life. The important thing for John to do is to prove that he can produce and produce for himself. Because at his current state, he has nothing to defend himself when his dad calls him out. So John needs to start using his SI and FI and start writing his songs. He then needs to start using his SI and TE and produce that music that he wants to make and go ahead and sing it. He then needs to get tribe feedback, which he can use to refine his song to make it even better. And this is not going to be easy for John because he has double masculine NF consume. So he's going to be very addicted to consuming new information. He also has double activated NT play. That means he's going to be obsessed with pinging back and forth with a tribe. And while this does have a lot of benefits, because as a result of having high play, John is going to have less tribe hate, it is distracting him from doing the blast, which is writing his music, producing it, and then singing it. So really at this point, I really only see two pathways that John can pursue. The first path is to go to school, to college, so that he has a plan B that he can fall back onto in case the whole folk singing and songwriting doesn't pan out. And then on the evenings or on his free time, he can work on making his music. The second pathway that John can pursue is he can get a day job or even a job in the evening, and then on his spare time, he can work on producing his music. Either pathway would serve John because they're both practical, and because he is sleepless and he's still young, there's no reason why he can't pursue going to school while making music on the side or going to work and making music on the side. So unfortunately for John or anyone that has FI problems, oftentimes figuring out that main emotion that you have trouble with is not the hardest part. The hardest part is taking the right action for you to overcome that negative emotion that you are experiencing. And yes, indeed for John, his SITE is going to be the biggest problem because his blast is double feminine. He's also an obsessive gatherer, so he gets distracted very easily. And he's also scared of the tribe, which means using the tribe to help him solve this problem of producing is not going to be his default go-to answer. However, John does have masculine introvert feeling. That means he has the ability to put the pressure on himself. One of my favorite individuals with masculine introvert feeling is David Goggins. And one of the things that he said is there's no such thing as a failure. There's only your first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, fourth attempt. So for John, If you go make music and you fail, guess what? You didn't really fail. That was just your first attempt. That means you need to try again and again and again until you refine your craft to the point where you feel satisfied with it and you're ready to produce and show it to the world. And yes, showing the world is part of the process. And yes, you will get rejected. It's just part of the deal if you want to pursue a career being an artist. But I do think John is going to figure this out eventually. I think he's a smart guy. And after life throws enough negativity his way to activate that masculine FI, he will definitely get things done. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.